This is a very brief conversation when my dad and Iris and I were joined by Christina, my cousin Robert's wife.
Mama does that too. Unless I really need it the next day, a couple of days, like for a wedding to go to, and that's the only dress I can find, I'll pay full price at Ann Taylor and Banana Republic, and that's it.
It's just like tagging endangered species.
You
have to keep up with them.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever paid full price. I don't think I've ever paid full price.
No, I don't.
Well, if you're smart, you won't.
Yeah.
Is that really how it goes?
Just like buying a car.
And don't wait till the wedding.
I know, but I waited till the last minute, and I had to pay full price on it.
I have a
Republican
funeral
dress.
wardrobe. I have a wedding wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
So when this comes up, I don't have to worry about going out and just go pick one.
Yeah, I have stuff for a funeral and I have stuff for dress up.
But I thought, I better not bring it. I'll leave it where it is.
Yeah.
Well, I exhausted my whole funeral wardrobe.
Recently, I know
In
you
4
had.
weeks, I went to 5 funerals.
Oh my
Lord have mercy.
goodness.
4 weeks, I went to
How
5. And all
depressing.
relatives except one. The Harkins funeral that I went to that Monday.
Oh, that's
was the
so
only one that wasn't
depressing.
went to. So I thought, well,
See, if Mama's cold, you might need to put that shawl on her.
seeing my outfits again at
Right.
my funerals.
And the guys are like, nobody will remember, but the girls do. Because I can be like, that girl wore that last night.
Yeah, right, yeah. So,
But
and
I'm just a girl.
I know how girls are.
But I mean, I play softball too, and it's like my little sister, it's like she's our free spirit, our granola in the family. She's the one who moved to San Francisco like 5 years ago. Well, she's now engaged. And planning out her wedding is amazing because all of her bridesmaids are going to be J. Crew and certain color and a certain fabric. And she went through all the fabrics and stuff, and she said she put 4 down that the girls can pick from because other ones she just did not like, But like with her, it's like she buys things on sale too. But she'll wear a T-shirt and her jeans and her little open-toed shoes, and Mom's like, I don't know why she dresses like that, but Lauren's like, whatever, because it is
how old
like.
is she? She's younger than you.
Yes, ma'am.
But she hasn't grown
She's
out of
26, but I'm like, I just think to myself, she's fooling
No,
Mom
I'm good.
completely because her jeans probably cost $250
Thanks.
and all of that stuff.
But many times people don't know that.
They don't. And yeah, Lauren's really, really excited about the wedding. She sent me these emails of places that she was going to go visit when she was.
This is another talk now still about MAME after Christina left. It's between Iris, my dad, and myself. And it's a very good clip of Iris just kind of being very, very open and honest. She's an older woman, maybe 84 or so. And she doesn't have a family. All of her family has passed away, and she's had 4 husbands or so, and I guess maybe no children. But they're all gone. And she was talking to us just about how it must be really hard for MAME in this time, but MAME has a lot, and she has even more than Iris does. And when it comes time for Iris to have to, I guess, face the inevitable end of her life, she will have no family to comfort her as Mame does now, with all of us being around her and everything. And so, though Mame has much more than Iris, currently Mame is kind of, not unappreciative, but she's just she's not, you can't tell that she's happy that we're all there. She's just very seemingly out of it, which is understandable. But since Iris was lucid, she was just saying that she didn't think Mame really knew how much she had, and that she probably wouldn't until the end.
See, I don't take things for granted because I haven't had them.
Right. You're aware of their absence.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But she sort of, without even realizing it, she takes all of you off granted. That's her lot. That's
Right.
the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep telling her every day, and she agrees with it, but
Still, yeah.
still, she just does not.
Well, I agree. I've worked with some guys from Ghana at Publix, and they said the most important thing you can do to honor your parents when they get to the point where they can't take care of themselves is to sacrifice a small amount of time that you have now as an independent adult to give back to your parents for everything that they gave to you.
Right.
And
what about all the nights they stayed up and walked the floor with you all night long?
Right.
Right.
And so I agree. I think I remember a couple of weeks ago they were talking about whether or not they should take her to Tampa to get the major surgery, and not even really good chance that would improve anything, and that might even make things much worse.
Make things worse because they put her automatically into pain.
Right.
And if you leave her alone, she's got comfortable months
Correct.
before she gets into the serious part of this and the pain part, which then she will more than likely they'll put a patch on her for the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think when that pain starts, that's when she'll really realize what she has with you guys.
Exactly. I think that's the only time she's going to really accept it as being as serious as it really is.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good because now she can enjoy, and as much as her stamina will allow her to, she can enjoy everything.
Mm-hmm. Ghana is a good place.
Ghana, where
Victor and Edmund.
Victor's from.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind going there with the Peace Corps. The family unit, just throughout the world, in most countries, not most countries, but most developing countries, seems like the family unit really takes care of each other much more than in the United States and other developed countries like England. I know lots of countries in Europe that are developed and everything. It's just our emphasis on family is so different now. We're all so individualistic.
Well, it's different than it used to be too.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's
the 40s and 50s and 60s.
Oh yeah, but it's weird because
70s.
you can see through the 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s that individualism becomes more and more prominent in America, and then like now, it's weird because most people are disconnected from their families to a large degree.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's right. People move away from home.
Yeah, I mean our family's a good example. We live like halfway between, Tallahassee and Grandma Eggy in Indiana. We're hundreds of miles away from.
Yeah. And we, instead of staying at home with your family, like Sharon's brothers and sisters or mine, I mean, we went to Pensacola to Atlanta to Washington, D.C. to Orlando, and now back to Atlanta.
Right. And then you look at someone like Brittany, her whole family is very united, and it's a completely different structure.
Always been in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. She knew her grandparents all growing up. She has memories of, every birthday,
and tons of cousins.
They are their own community.
Yeah.
It's like they have their own world within the world that they can depend on. And there's so many of them that it's like a huge support group.
But you don't have any attachment to your cousins in Indiana, nor your cousins here.
No.
Robert, none.
I mean,
none at all.
Strangers, basically.
Yeah, none at all. Sad.
Sad, but it's okay.
Come give me a hug.
Yeah, that's it. It's okay.
That's right. It is okay.
Because I've developed into the person that I am, and I'm a very strong individual because
You
of
are
that.
indeed. Absolutely. And that's the way it should be. The only relationship in the world that needs to grow apart is the relationship between a child and a parent.
Mm-hmm.
and that then gives you your independence and your own self-worth. I, on the other hand, had as a child was in a very loving, close family, and grew up with self-esteem that I didn't even realize there was such a thing, but it was there because of the close-knit family. But now that my family's all dead and there's nobody but me, I severely missed that connection with family. And so instead of dwelling on it and letting it eat me alive, I get busy with other things. In other words, like I did just for a week or so ago, I spent 4 weeks landscaping the entire complex at 84 years old, which gave me a project and something to do and kept me busy.
Right.
So that's what you have to do. You take lemons and make lemonade.
Right. Two sides to every coin.
Yeah,
no doubt.
absolutely.
This is a double-headed coin.
That's a good point.
And I enjoy hitching a ride on other families like you all. See, I involve myself with you all. That gives me a family
Yeah, definitely.
to cling to.
Surrogate families.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good. And even, I mean, that's just like us and our friends in our neighborhood. You know, we attach ourselves to other people and enjoy their time, and they enjoy our time.
Well, my family now is the neighborhood.
Right.
And believe me, when you get to this age, your world gets smaller through necessity. You know, you can't do the things that you once did. So the limitations are there, and you either accept them and enjoy what you do have, or you gripe and moan and make everybody miserable.
Right. Definitely.
That rental house over there needs some help on its yard, doesn't it?
Well, it looks better than it did 2 weeks ago.
Does it?
Or a week ago.
That is sort of
Yeah.
a strange setup.
There's a bunch of college kids that live there.
Oh, really?
Ready for
Already?
Ready to eat?
It's so early.
you're
It
ready?
is. It's before 8 o'clock.
Okay,
know.
let's get to it.
Ours, take your pocketbook in. We don't want to leave it out here.
This is a small clip that I made during dinner that same night with Robert and Christina being the main actors for this scene. I didn't want them to know that I was recording, so I recorded underneath the table, which kind of disturbs the audio quality, but I felt like Robert was not down with me recording, so I wanted to definitely get something of him to preserve that he was there, but I didn't want to make it obvious that I was recording or have any sort of weird, not confrontation, but just have a weird explanation of what I was doing. Where's CJ's?
There's a little bar right there by my house.
Yeah, our original plan was to meet up with Peggy, Bobby, and Troy, and
Right.
have a long night with them. But Peggy's grandmother, or Troy's mom, her mother-in-law, decided that she couldn't do it at the last minute, which is kind of curious as to last weekend was Peggy's birthday, and she seriously couldn't watch the kids then. And so she was my matron of honor. And yeah, her and I were kind of speaking secretly. And Peggy's like, seems like your family doesn't watch the children anymore. She only watches them when Troy has an event to do.
If I don't want to, the CT won't watch Bryson ever.
Who's CT?
Tony Potovich.
No, but she only watches them when Troy.
I'm not talking about Troy. I'm talking about Matthew's wife, Kate.
Right,
Her
but
mom will not never watch him. Period. Remember when
I heard that.
You heard about that?
Cam does
Just Kate.
watch the
We've been over
kids.
this before.
Cam does watch the children. I don't want everybody to get, assume that she doesn't watch them at all.
Like everybody hit him next pay the minute.
Anyway, what I was saying is,
David,
football season's coming up.
come on in here. We don't want you cleaning up until you get finished with everything.
Don't clean until we got a pile of them up there.
Don't clean yet, but don't come into your finished,
No, I'm being productive.
basically.
He's used to being the host. I think that's host syndrome.
The
Yeah.
girl's house is perfect for parties. I love
They do them all the
it.
time.
It is.
All over.
I have host syndrome too.
There's no cure.
I love hosting. It's so much fun, like making sure everybody's wines all together, and
My dad lives for that.
it's
Born a
fun.
host. Continues even to this moment.
That's right. Look, he's there hosting this Doc's place. I can assure you, his brother don't like that at all.
No,
Maybe that's where they differ.
among many other places.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the weekend, everybody down here, he was standing in the corner, he's going.
Who was doing that?
My dad,
Oh.
he just likes peace and quiet all the time. Yeah, he was going.
When the
Not like
last
you.
time, this is the last time you all were here. Julie told us all to go home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she said, y'all go, hurry up and go home.
Well, she gave us about 5 minutes of sitting around. She said, okay, y'all, it's time to go. And I don't mean me, I mean y'all.
She wanted to spend time with Doc.
And we were like,
No, she just wanted to go. She wasn't in here. She just wanted to go to bed. She was tired.
See, like Miss Julie, I couldn't do that. I would just, I'm a,
You're a vampire. Anyway.
Robert, I'm just saying, yeah. Thank you. She's a pleaser.
Please, there's a better way of saying
yeah, but
vampire.
see, we've known
That's what I was looking for,
We've known
but
Julie.
she just
She
said,
likes to stay up late.
Yeah, I see.
well, that's not the point when you're hosting.
Yeah, but oh, Dave, get back in the kitchen.
Sorry, I think there's more dishes.
Just say it down.
Calm down. He's so excited, he's got more dishes to wash here.
I'm full right now. Need another dishwasher.
I tell you.
Need another dishwasher.
That's how I only have one.
Partner.
If we ever get to redo furnace, which eventually we will.
What do you have to redo?
This is an after dinner talk that we all had. Robert and Christina had to leave, so we all went to the living room after dinner was over and just had a little chat.
8:30, I said, Jim, go get Cynthia. So Mama got up, and I thought it was Cynthia. Because she was banging around in there loud. In the kitchen, and we looked, and there was Mama. And I said, about 20 minutes later, I said, we got to get Cynthia up.
I never heard her leave.
Well,
Really?
Usually I'm really on it.
Here's Mama in the kitchen. What is she doing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, usually I'm really on it, but I did not even hear her leave.
Well, you were tired because she'd been...
10 hours.
Up till 10 last night.
Well, and I kept up so much that night before too. She hadn't caught up on that.
She snuck out.
Last night she caught up. So.
Snuck out.
That's exactly right, Mama. That's what I
That
did
is true.
too.
Uh-huh.
What I do is I keep a record of the books I read so that I can know what I read after that.
And not read them again?
Well, I
Read 'em again?
I bought books and started reading and read it, and I think, oh my goodness, I've read this.
Yeah, I do too.
After buying it.
Wow.
I do. But anyhow, I don't do that
I
anymore.
do the
Same
same
CD
thing.
twice.
You bought
I
what?
bought the same CD twice.
Yeah, I do
Really?
that. I do it. I really
Not
do.
often, but I've done it 2 or 3 times.
You have it on the Excel spreadsheet?
No, I keep it on my computer, and I just make a list, and I just, I need to
That's a good
start.
idea. That's a good idea.
That's what I do. I just write it down, and I need to start writing a little brief synopsis, because then I forget what the darn book's about.
I can't remember the names of books. I remember the stories,
Me too.
but I don't remember the name of that story.
Me too.
So that's a good idea to write it down.
So that's a little technique I use in my
That's good.
old age.
Genius.
Sweetheart, you don't know old age yet. Just how?
I'll be 60 in July.
Oh, you're a baby.
I know what I am. Okay. That's true.
If you want a light? No.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
What was that same book?
Oh, this
Is it
is
time for Lynn to come home?
Not till
Not quite.
an hour from now. Hour.
Julie was here, she'd have run us away a long time.
I know it, but
But she's not, so she can.
Oh, Monday.
What is that, Kay?
this is Huckleberry Finn, and the
I know
first
that's that
paragraph.
You've read that.
This is you don't know about me without you have read a book by the name of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. But that ain't no matter. That book was made by Mr. Mark Twain, and he told the truth, mainly. There was things which he stretched, but mainly he told the truth. That was nothing. I never seen anybody but lied one time or another. Without it was Aunt Polly, or the widow, or maybe Mary. Aunt Polly, Tom's Aunt Polly, she is, and Mary and the widow Douglas is all told about is that book, which is mostly a true book, with some stretchers, as I said before.
so is
It's a
that
preface.
Robert Pereira?
is that right at the beginning?
Yeah, he uses there's 6 or 7 dialects in this book.
Yeah.
But is that the preface to the story?
This is, I guess,
Forward?
No, this is, I guess, the beginning. This is like this is the first paragraph.
That's a famous passage that he's read. Actually.
Now, the way the book winds up is this. Tom and me found the money that the robbers hid in the cave, and it made us rich. We got $6,000 apiece, all gold. It was an awful sight of money when it was piled up.
Money for 18.
Yeah. Well, Judge Thatcher, he took it, and he put it out at interest, and it fetched us $1 a day apiece all year round. More than a body could tell what to do with. And the widow Douglas,
$1 a day.
she took me for her son, and allowed she would civilize me, spelled with an S.
Really?
But it was rough living in the house all the time, considering how dismal, regular, and decent the widow was in all her ways. And so when I couldn't stand it no longer, I lit out. I got into old rags and my sugar hogshed again, and was free and satisfied. But Tom Sawyer, he hunted me up and said he was going to start a band of robbers, and I might join it and go back to the widow and be respectable. So I went back. It's crazy stuff.
That's good.
You went back to the widow to become a band of robbers?
Isn't that
Oh,
No, to be a proper person.
person? Yeah.
you guys are getting sucked in. Just keep reading.
Uh-huh.
The widow, she cried over me, and she called me a poor lost lamb. And she called me a lot of other names, too. But she never meant no harm by it. She put me in them new clothes again, and I couldn't do nothing but sweat and sweat, and felt all cramped up. Well then, the old thing commenced again. The widow rung a bell for supper, and you had to come to time. When you got to the table, you couldn't go right to eating, but you had to wait for the widow to tuck her head down and grumble a little over the victuals.
Vittles.
V-I-C?
Yeah, C-T-U-A-L-S is how you spell vittles.
Vittles?
It's spelled that way. Victuals.
What does that mean?
That's how it's spelled. You
What
know
is it?
Vittles are.
Food, yeah.
Food, it's food that they used to call, in my grandmother's day, they called food vittles.
Vittles.
You never heard that?
That's good.
Y'all, I'm only 22.
Good gosh, where have you been, child?
I've been in the womb.
God, go to your womb again.
Best
tonight.
friend.
Though that weren't really anything. There weren't anything really the matter with it. Well, this is with them. That is, nothing. Only everything was cooked by itself. In a barrel of odds and ends, it is different. Things gets mixed up, and the juice kind of swaps around, and things go better.
Sound like Forrest Gump.
Mama, after supper. Forrest Gump. I want to see that movie. After supper, she got out her book and learned me about Moses and the bulrushers. And I went in a sweat to find out all about them.
Bo, what's the bull rush?
No idea, but I think that's the
Just
name of the
bushes
chapter.
along the river
Huh?
and all. Bushes along the river and
Bullrush.
The first chapter is called I Discover Moses and the Bulrushers. Let's see.
Do you know about the bull rushes?
I still don't really know.
Yeah, well, he went to church for a while.
But by and by, she let it out that Moses had been dead a considerable long time. So then I didn't care no more about him. because I didn't take no stock in dead people. Pretty soon I wanted to smoke and asked the widow to let me, but she wouldn't. She said it was a mean practice and wasn't clean, and I must try not to do it anymore. That is just the way with some people. They get down on a thing when they don't know nothing about it. Here she was a-bothering about Moses, which was no kin to her, and no use to anybody. Being gone, you see, yet finding a power of fault with me for doing a thing that had some good in it. And she took snuff too. Of course that was all right, because she done it herself. This is a fun book.
Well, he
That is a
slaughters the
good
king's
book.
English, doesn't he?
That is a good book. There's a lot of depth in
That's
that.
right.
Yeah, Mark Twain's name. I'm reading his Innocents Abroad. Is it Mark Twain's?
Samuel Clemens?
Yes, Mr. Clemens.
Did he read that? Did he write that one as Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens?
That's a good question, because I think it was his first book. Maybe.
Really?
Maybe. It's his tale about going abroad. Innocence. He went on a cruise to Europe. It was supposed to be Europe and the Holy Lands, and they've only just gotten out of like port, and he's really happy because he's not seasick, but everyone else is. He said,
You're reading that now?
Yeah. He said there's like a special kind of pleasure when everyone around you is sick, but you, because of your fortitude and your experience, are not sick. Because they crawl around on the deck and hold their stomachs, and you walk around proudly and enjoy the sun. It's funny. He's funny. He's a very honest man.
Didn't he die like in?
100 years ago.
I mean, he died like in
1910, I think. It
Okay.
says.
Yeah,
What's the
100 years
story?
ago.
Wasn't he born with the Halley's Comet or Halley's Comet and then died with the comet?
Did he?
Isn't that the story?
Sure. I've heard of that.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
1835 to 1910.
I didn't know one.
Mr. Clemens.
You did know we do that. It'll hurt your fingers, Cynthia. Pull back in the back, maybe be better. Get behind her.
You have to like push down from behind.
But you can get your fingers cut. Here, yeah. The two of y'all can do it. Spin Mama around those feet.
Whoa.
Oh, watch her.
That's a little too far.
That's good.
Hold it right there.
Felt like a hunk of meat in a cooler.
Oh.
We'll give that blood to that head one way or the other, won't we?
Very nice.
Nah. And nah.
It's good.
Good for the back.
We all say good night now because you're going to go to sleep.
Letter?
I wish that would be nice.
Letter?
Yeah.
Persons attempting to find a motive in this narrative will be persecuted. Persons attempting to find a moral in it will be banished. Persons attempting to find a plot will be shot.
He said that?
Yeah, I reckon he's the one who did.
Did he reckon?
Not Harper
Harper Commons, man.
What an interesting mind.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Especially for that time period.
Oh, man.
Did anybody read or hear that Harper Lee died the last day or two?
Really? I haven't heard that. I was thinking about Harper Lee.
This clip was recorded outside, not on the porch of my Uncle Lynn's house, but on the back porch. And my dad and my Aunt Cynthia both had wanted to smoke a cigar, and so they excused themselves from the talk in the living room, much to the chagrin of Iris, who did not like the fact that they were smoking. And then I went out there shortly after they went out there and did a little reading from Huckleberry Finn just for fun.
He was just getting ready for him.
Not yet.
Since it's his house, so he's taking it away from him.
He loves it. He's happy we're here.
I'm sure.
So's Julie.
Company's better than loneliness.
Oh, did you make that up or did
I penned that myself just now.
Okay.
Her sister, Miss Watson, a terrible, slim old maid with goggles on, had just come to live with her. and took a set at me now with a spelling book. She worked me middling hard for about an hour, and then the widow would make her ease up. I couldn't stood it much longer. Then for an hour it was deadly dull, and I was fidgety. Miss Watson would say, "Don't put your feet up there, Huckleberry. And don't scrunch up like that, Huckleberry. Sit up straight." And pretty soon she would say, "Don't gap and stress like that, Huckleberry. Why don't you try to behave?" Then she told me all about the bad place. And I said,
The bad place.
Oh,
and I said I wished I was there. She got mad then, but I didn't mean no harm. All I wanted was to go somewheres.
besides Nick to her.
All I wanted was a change. I weren't particular. She said it was wicked to say what I said. Said she wouldn't say it for the whole world.
Lynn's home.
She was going to live as long as to go to the good place. Well, I couldn't see no advantage in going where she was going, so I made my mind up. I wouldn't try for it. But I never said so because it would only make trouble. It wouldn't do no good. I think I'm gonna end up. This clip is recorded in the dining room, and it's featuring my Uncle Len after he got off work at the hospital. And he tells some funny stories about patients he's had in the past and everything like that while he eats.
I know that a little bit.
Look at it, Robert.
Excuse me. Can't go right.
Take a lot of it back.
Yeah.
Not all of it.
Robert enjoyed it.
Robert kept.
Was Robert here for lunch, supper?
He was for supper.
He and his bride.
Yeah.
It's her birthday.
What did he have to say, or she have to say?
Oh,
They said a lot.
yeah. Tell him.
Well, they talked to me. I haven't seen them actually since I went to Japan, so I didn't see their wedding or anything. So we talked a little bit about that, and Christina she talked a lot about clothes while she was here, and she's planned out what she wants to do with her hair up into her 40s. So she told us about that. Robert's lost.
Touch all these interesting ones.
Robert's lost a lot of weight, I noticed, and he told me that he's got a new job. He's working 10 hours a day out on the construction site or something. Told me a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But they were here very briefly.
But they did eat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had.
He made rice.
He did make rice.
Yes.
He made it well too. I noticed it was not dry rice. He put the right amount of water.
He used consomme.
Does he?
Yeah.
Huh.
He sure did.
Which kept me from eating it.
Oh, yeah.
I figured it was like a beef broth thing or something.
Right, that's right.
It's all right.
Beef consomme.
Yeah, he and Leonard would cook the rice because they both like rice.
Uh-huh.
Simple.
We like rice, too. Steve and I
Good.
eat
That
rice.
soup is,
That soup's amazing.
it trumps the hospital.
How was the hospital today?
It was, for the hospital, it was very, very tolerant.
Yeah.
It was one
No.
of the better days I've had there.
Aww.
Like at 9, I was out. And that hardly ever happens in this particular area. I mean, it's just, the gods were with me, you know.
No. Did anything come in that was particularly stressful or surprising?
No, I was in Unit 3, which has less of the significant injuries. But in Unit 1, there was two people who, both of them near drowning. One of them was somebody went in and stayed too long, and another one jumped in and he got in problems too.
Really?
Wow. Trying to save the first person?
Yeah, trying
Wow.
to save the first one.
Gosh.
Now, that was in Unit 1. I'm in Unit 3, so I didn't.
So there's a different severity for each unit?
Yeah, my unit is the people who come in. My back's been hurting for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
My chest's been hurting for 2 weeks and stuff like that.
Chronic stuff. Maybe.
The complaining people who come there. That's the problem with it. You get all these whiny complainers with these problems for bunches of time, and you don't know what's wrong with them.
Has anything happened this week that was intense or worth noting?
Well, your mother went in the hospital. Was that a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, that definitely. On a
It
personal
wasn't too
note.
bad. I was riding in the car. You know.
Right in the car with the doctors calling in and saying anything, or because it wasn't really intense. She wasn't like in some sort of failure.
No,
So
she
they were just kind of looking at
was
them.
doing fine. How was Spring Creek?
It was actually pretty cool. I didn't really have any memory of that place, any of those places, really, Shell Point or anything. So more or less my first time being there as a aware individual. So
Right.
it was cool to see that the spring water coming up out of the water. It's interesting to think that there's like an aquifer that's channeling water and it's coming up right there. It's very bizarre.
It doesn't always bubble. If you get a drought, it'll stop. But it bubbles up, and I used to go there and try to swim to the middle.
Yeah, that's what my dad was saying, but it pushes you out, right?
Well, you can get in the middle, but just as soon as you stop swimming, it pushes you back out. So it was fun.
So theoretically, if you had like one of those propulsion devices that scuba divers have with like the motors, you could go in there and go into the caverns and
And do
everything.
people do that sometimes?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Kind of tricky, isn't it?
I would think it would be very tricky. Probably very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, any cave diving is tricky and dangerous. Although,
Are you doing okay? I just want to make sure.
The nosiest thing.
Since you're here, could you get a little bit more
Some
water?
more water? Yeah, I just want to make sure you're doing all right in here.
yeah, well,
That's all
I
I
got all the
know.
family here.
I tell you, y'all are all talking, having a good time. I was just wondering how it was really possible with me in the other room.
It's hard.
That's right. That's right. It's hard to believe.
It's manageable.
Yes.
But what does make an interesting night at the ER?
Yeah.
When I get out on time. Like last time Stephen and Jim were here, they heard on the radio about a drug deal that went south.
That's right. Coming in, we heard on the radio.
Yeah, and when I got home,
Really?
I had seen that guy.
Really?
It was a shootout.
Wow.
And the guy I saw was shot in the chest, and when you're shot in the chest, a lot of times you need a tube in the chest
To get the
to
blood
get the
out?
blood out and get the air out that's around the lung. The air in the lung's okay, obviously, but so I had to stick a chest tube in this guy, and that was kind of interesting. I do that once every 4 months. So mainly what I do is family practice.
Right.
My head hurts, my chest hurts, my stomach hurts, stuff like that.
Do you have a most memorable case?
A single.
Yeah.
Some of the sexual cases are kind of interesting.
Like assault and stuff like that, or?
No, like during the second Bush presidential primaries. Well, actually, no, it was during the when he was running against Gore in Florida. Went to Bush and he won it. There were all kind of lawyers down there, and there was this one lawyer for Gore who was huge. And I don't know if I ever told you this story.
I don't know.
And he came in and he said he lost his dildo in his rear. So I've got these long, round forceps, they're calling you. I mean, they're 18 inches long.
Wow.
And I went in there in his rear, and I can feel it vibrating against me. It was still.
Wow.
And so I just
I've never heard this.
did like that and grabbed it and pulled it out.
Did you get that too?
Yeah, I cleaned it up. One of the nurses said, "Well, do you think you wanted to change the batteries?" And put it out?"
Wow.
And he was the nicest guy you'd ever meet.
I'm sure it's hard to be
Pleasant guy.
anything but humble in that situation.
You're really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that,
you wouldn't expect him that's what he's doing at the right time in the hotel.
well, he'd already had supper.
Wow.
But yeah, I get some of those.
But isn't it kind of rough to take your forceps in your body and look
I
from
knew
that
the
angle?
looking. I just was feeding with forces. And that thing was about 16 inches long. It was huge. And the back of it was an inch and a half, 2 inches diameter. So I just grabbed the back and pulled it. I mean, once you grabbed it, it was pretty easy. Wasn't even a big deal.
Understatement, definitely. Wow.
So yeah, we get.
Tell Steve that story. Heard that.
He'll get a kick.
Well, yesterday I had another one. It was kind of interesting. This couple was in the room and they had their child there. And the child had a cold, I think. And Karen of the couple had a cold. Well, a woman who was in the room walks out, and she looks like a woman. And I said, well, you need to get Karen to come back in the room. I was telling the other person. So I can examine her and says, well, I'm Karen. And she was all butchy and you couldn't tell, who she was. I'm getting more and more that I used to never see, these were black. Used to never see black homosexual people, particularly women. But now I see guys, but I see more women than guys.
Lesbians, black lesbians.
Yeah.
But they're so butch.
And there's usually one who's real butchy. I mean, real butchy. And the other one's usually real effeminate. And that was yesterday. It's kind of, I said, well, I need Karen to come back in. She says, I am. Okay.
So stick your tongue out. Treat this cold.
Yeah, it was nothing to treat now with.
Is it expensive to go to the hospital like that if it's just for something minor?
Oh, yeah. It's expensive if you pay.
Yeah.
Our collection rate is about 42%.
Wow.
So,
So why is there no incentive for people to pay their pop? Just because it's so expensive? Or how do you do it?
There's 20% of the people are poor.
Right.
And 80% of my patients are that 20%.
Well, let me ask you this. Does Medicaid kick in and pay the hospital?
Pay some.
Yeah.
Doesn't pay enough.
As opposed to Medicare.
Yeah, Medicare is just for 65-year-olds.
Right.
Not just
Medicaid is, right.
Medicaid is for poor folks.
So do those people on top of, I guess, do those people likely just have a lot of debt in general and they can't pay that off as well?
Well, they actually don't have a whole lot of debt because nobody will loan them any money because they hadn't paid their bills for 20 years.
Wow. A lot of Americans, you think, live like that?
No, but I deal with the bottom 20%.
Right.
Stephen deals with the top 1/2 of 1%. I mean, his customers.
Not the same people.
I see him if they're in a car wreck or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because you've seen Jimmy Carter, Ted Turner.
Yeah, I've seen some
famous people.
Relatively famous people.
But Jimmy Carter, when he had the fishing lure from Ted Turner catching him in the eye or something.
No, it was in his shoulders. And
Okay.
it was just in his shoulder. One of those treble hooks.
Yeah.
Just got him in his shoulder. And he was at Ted Turner's bass fishing, but Ted Turner wasn't there. He was just there to do. But he came in with these 3 football player-sized guys, and they were the
Bodyguards.
Secret Service.
Yeah.
And you treated him.
Yeah, I took the hook I was on. What those guys a lot of times do is they'll come in, and the Secret Service guy will find a nurse and say, "Now who's a good guy who can take out this hook?" And he found a nurse that liked me. So anyway, I got to go in there and take his hook out.
Wow.
He asked me, "You ever done this?" I said, "Yeah, I've done this once or twice."
Did you talk much with them otherwise? Or was it just a brief?
It was idle chat.
Yeah.
I didn't get his autograph.
We've got some books signed by him.
That's cool.
He's written a lot of books.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some original signatures.
That's really cool.
I saw him one time. We take that walk every morning in Atlanta through Freedom Park all the way to Emory Park. And the Carter Presidential Library is located in that area. And we walk right through the library center. And we always talk to the security guards and all, and say hello. And one day, Jimmy Carter I was walking along this day. And and I was walking this way, and Jimmy Carter and Roseland was coming this way, walking. And the Secret Service detail, about 7 men, was about 10 feet behind him. And I was on my phone because my stepfather, Fred, was in the hospital, and that was right before he died. And I was on the phone to Fred's doctor.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Carter said to me, he said, well, you can't even get off the phone when you're taking a walk,
Wow.
The old people in here are tired. And I know you young people are
Vibing.
are jamming, but it's about time for us to go home if you don't mind.
Well, here, I don't really want that.
Well, Jim will drink it.
I'll pour it back in the bottle.
Are you gonna pour it in the bottle? You want me to pour it in the bottle?
Yes.
Mine too, I hear it.
Where's yours?
No, they're my mom.
Well, I think there's not but a bit of sip of that left. I mean,
Might as well,
that'd
for
be like-
posterity's sake.
what was the best? Can't beat a hand, by the way. In that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a big beat guy.
Well,
Really?
That's good.
I ain't
obviously.
And all the beans.
Green beans,
I
you
ate a
like
lot
the
of
green
beans.
beans?
There
Yeah.
were a lot of
You
beans.
want this?
Yeah, I'll eat
Can I
that.
take this lid off
Yeah.
so you can breathe and have some?
Fermentate. This was a really good talk between my Uncle Lynn and my dad after everyone had left my Uncle Lynn's house for the night. So my Uncle Stephen, my Uncle Jim, Aunt Cynthia, and Mame were all staying at Mame's house. And so it was reduced down to the 3 of us, and we just had a very good talk about a lot of different topics.
You had to have 20% down to be even again. And then retail people wanted to sell more,
Right.
so they made it easier and easier to get credit. And that's kind of good. Like when I came to town, I didn't have doobie squad, but I made pretty good money.
Yeah.
They knew I made pretty good money, so
You were
they went
good.
ahead and loaned it to me.
But in the 80s and 90s, we always put down 20% on our houses too.
Yeah.
And in the 2000s, we did as well. After you start doing it, then you get equity in what you sold before, and it's easier to roll it into the
Yeah.
next house. But typically, like he said, if you put down 20%, there's something called PMI, private mortgage insurance.
Okay.
And if you put down less than 20% down payment, you have to pay PMI because it's an insurance policy that you won't default on it.
Okay.
And some of these people in this crazy ass thing in the 2000s were getting 100% financing, not having to do anything, and it's easier to walk away from something that you don't have any money in.
Right.
And if it's underwater,
That's right.
like a lot of these,
Yeah.
my lots at the coast are worth about 7 or 8% of what I paid for.
Wow. Is this a severe
Except for the one
reduction?
with the boat is. The one with the boat is probably worth 3/4 of what I paid for.
Wow.
Maybe not though, because if you can't build there, it ain't worth much.
Right.
So it may be worth not much at all.
Wow.
So you need to listen to my economics.
Take what it takes.
I wish I'd have listened to them better.
Well, yeah, it's hard. I mean, hindsight's the only way you could really know that was a good or a bad investment. At the time,
Well,
I'm sure it was.
yeah, hindsight looking back now, though, I mean, how many people out there have $400,000 to buy a lot,
Right.
$500,000 to build a house? I mean, I don't even have that
Right.
enough money to do that.
Right.
And
And you've done well your whole life.
yeah, and I've done pretty well
Yeah.
my whole life. And there are 5% of the population makes what your daddy and I make. Your daddy and mama and I make, and Stephen.
Yeah.
What percent of the taxes do you think we pay?
Oh, I know it's.
If you listen to Neil Bortz, you know.
I know it's less. It's not a stratified tax system that we have. The rich pay. It's not. What is it? Graduated tax?
Yeah, it is graduated.
It is graduated.
Rich pay more.
But
I know that they pay more, but it's not.
Rich people pay 95% of the taxes.
No, not that
What
much,
is
about
it?
55.
Okay.
But that's 5%. 5% of the population pays 55% of the taxes.
Wow.
And most of the population is middle class.
5% base 55. And then Obama wants it to be that they pay more, right? He wants to raise the tax rate for the more
And
wealthy.
then they're saying, well, you're raising the taxes on somebody like Stephen. If he has to pay more taxes, then he can't hire more people for his small business, and
Right.
yada, yada, yada.
But then what do you do?
So don't penalize the local
Well, but
order too.
is tax really a penalization? I mean, that's one way to look at it, but that's a very specific, that's a political
If
perspective.
you don't have the money, if you're having to pay more taxes and you don't have the money, then you can't expand. You can't buy more trucks.
But that's
you can't
not.
hire
But those taxes go towards other things, like making things that could create jobs in the future.
No, the taxes go to the government.
Yeah, but the government has projects and
Well,
they have
do.
things.
They do.
I mean, it funds public schools. It funds the
government
military.
typically doesn't produce good jobs.
Oh, I believe that, but still,
The private sector produces production jobs,
yeah,
which are the good jobs,
right.
and the kind that can grow.
Right. But I mean, the majority of people are not ever going to be the people who are making a lot of money and having good, stable jobs and everything. I think in history, you have like the upper echelon and the lower echelon. There's a servant and there's a master. I think that's just the natural way that things flow into each other. So it seems like, I don't know, I might have lost my point. Oh, drastic.
But in the United States,
Yeah. Oh, the
I don't
government.
care how ugly you are or what color you are,
Yeah.
you can make a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And the key to it is going to school and staying in school.
Right.
I mean, you want to be a Bill Gates or a
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs
Yeah.
or Steve Wozniak and
Yeah,
all these
right.
guys. They just they had great ideas.
Right.
They were really, thinkers.
Right.
But if you just go to school and become a lawyer or a doctor, something like that, you're going to make $300,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And anybody can do that.
Right. To a degree. Although,
Well, anybody can who's got the gumption to do it.
but the interesting thing is that I work with a guy specifically named Rene who's from Morocco. And he's got the gumption, but it's interesting to see these very impoverished refugees that come from like Ethiopia and other parts of Africa because they're just so busy. Like they don't have enough, in order to even get enough money to pay for the tuition itself, they'd have to work 40 hours a week because they have no benefits otherwise because they just came here with nothing. And yeah,
But they're not citizens.
they are citizens. I guess there's through whatever, route they need to become citizens by being a refugee, they have done that.
Political asylum.
Because they work at Whole Foods and you have to have social security numbers, you have to have proof of residency and everything. And it's amazing because my roommates too, they're all Asian and they have to work and they've had to take out loans and they are just extremely busy. And it's interesting because I have a lot of free time. And I'm very privileged because I'm a white man in our society where white men usually rise to the top. But I think it's a lot more difficult for people who don't have that.
Oh, it is.
Absolutely.
But they can do it.
They can do
You
it.
go take a class or two at the junior college
Yeah.
and make straight A
Right,
at night
right,
and do that for 4 years, however long it takes you to get your 2-year degree.
right.
And then you probably get a scholarship. Then.
You probably could, but it's got to
I mean,
be.
it's harder. And I have to admit, I don't know if I've done as much as I did if I'd had to work and go to school. I just don't know if I'd have done it.
Yeah.
But it was, school, to me anyway, was easier than working.
No doubt.
Because I studied Sunday through Thursday for 4 or 5 hours a night, and Daddy gave me $60 a week to eat on, which I used 25.
Right.
He gave me a car, the old black pickup truck, and it was a pretty good life. Because Friday and Saturday you were partying, weekends you had a good time, chasing women, and then Sunday I had a couple of girlfriends break up with me because Sunday through Thursday, man.
I've heard about
I was
that.
studying.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed just learning stuff. I enjoyed geography. I mean, it was just something to do.
Mm-hmm.
But we were all lucky because Daddy could afford it. And if you go to school, he'd send you and pay for everything.
Yeah. And I appreciate that myself with my parents because I know as soon as school starts again, I don't want to work because I want to focus on school.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky looking at my roommates who are the closest to me to show this example. They just don't even have that option. Like they're already in debt they have to get the jobs that they're going after. Otherwise they'll never be able to pay off the debt that they've taken out in order to pursue the education that's required for those jobs. So it's such a different situation. It's amazing.
It's been interesting because both Kenneth, and I would expect this on Kenneth because he's older, but Kenneth and Lauren both have realized that they are fortunate to have good parents and a good grandmother that would pay for their education and help them pay for their education, because it is expensive. And having roommates, and Lauren's the same way. Lauren's like, you know, I'm with my friends, they've got jobs and they got all this debt, and I really appreciate y'all doing what you're doing, and it makes you feel good, you know, when they realize that. But that is true. I mean, Daddy did that for us, and if we're able to do that for our kids, I mean, that's just the way we were brought up, and the way we like. If we're capable of doing that, it's the right thing to do, and especially if you are bettering yourself and all, it really makes you feel
appreciates
good.
it.
But if you're going out and you're doing drugs and you're, you know, just working at the Waffle House or whatever, you know, it's a lot. You just feel different.
Well, some kids think they're entitled.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
I mean, Leonard, he's finally getting around to where I think he realizes he's got to work, and he's a worker now. But he just thought he was a Porero, and that means you get a car when you're 16, et cetera, et cetera.
Big ass trucks all the time.
Yeah, trucks and all this, that, and that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that about him.
Yeah, he's a lot better. He works now. He's up early in the morning, going out and working. He's got a pretty good job picking up the debris from taking down trees. And now he's going to get into stump grinding. So he'll pick up the debris and he'll grind the stumps.
Sell the mulch.
So
well, they actually do them, and they leave them in the yard. I mean, it's a pretty good deal, because the trees we've had taken out of our house with Mike Cross and all this other stuff. When they're done, they say, "What about? Well, just call this guy up," and they come out and they have this stump grinder, and they come in your yard. And they grind the stump for $65 or $125. And then they leave, and you got a pile of mulch there. I mean, it's pretty easy work, and it's just repetition. It's not hard. You set the machine up. It's like a circular saw, and it just moves very slowly, horizontally, and just chews up the stump. Now, I'm sure for an extra $25 or $50 or $75, they'll scoop up the debris and all, but you know, it's all interrelated. But that's good. If he's got him a little niche.
yeah, that's the niche. And he told me he made $3,500 one week picking up debris.
$3,500?
Yeah.
Wow.
The problem is doing stuff like what Leonard's doing.
It's kind of seasonal.
And Robert, except Robert's working full time now, but with Leonard, it's not necessarily seasonal, but it is kind of, it's cyclical.
Right.
And he won't do $3,500 every week.
Right.
And that's what's good about a salary job or whatever, is you've got consistency.
Right.
And Robert even told me a couple of weeks ago, he said, you know, I'm just doing odd jobs, and, you know, I can help Leonard and make $800 in a day. Well, the problem is he can't help Leonard every day and make $800.
Right.
So it's very inconsistent.
And to get into what Leonard has, though, if it hadn't been for me, he had never got into it.
Because he had to buy the machinery and all?
Because he's got about $100,000 worth of equipment.
Oh my God,
But he's got
$100,000?
this big diesel truck that costs $43,000. He's got a trailer. I mean, the trailer is almost as big as this room here.
Wow.
It is humongous.
It's like 20 by 10?
It's got 6 or 8 wheels.
Wow.
I mean, it is huge. Yeah, I think it carries up to 20,000 pounds.
Jeez.
And then you got to have a tractor to pick it up, which is another 30,000. So, see, that's his little niche. The tree trimming guys, or take down the tree guys, or tree surgeons, they don't have to have all that stuff. They just do it. They collect
drop
their
the tree.
$3,000 for carrying down 3 trees, and they give Leonard $800 of that to tote everything off. And now Leonard's going to hopefully get another $80 a stump or whatever to come in and do that.
Right. Wow.
But he could have never done that without me. And we've helped Robert out, and Robert is an employee. He's not an employer. He can't run a business. Leonard's pretty good at it. I think Shannon is even better.
She seems very well
His
put together.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
she knows. She appreciates what she's got too. She's had 2 sorry husbands, and now she's got a boyfriend who's, a lot better than either of her husbands.